crowd, it went beyond that. And this film is completely different than that, I think. Or do you, I mean, I feel like you're the kind of filmmaker, having seen, I think, if not all, then most of your films, you adapt to the material rather than sort of imprint yourself on the material, like make everything feel the same. But were you excited to try something a little funnier? Certainly not less bloody, but like funnier?
Yeah, it's like you do the assignment. Do you know? You take the assignment for what it is, and that's sort of true for all things in making a picture or developing a script or anything. It's like you do the assignment in front of you. You don't try. I'm careful in talking about it this way because I don't want to diminish the art. You don't try so hard, right? Like as soon as you start trying really hard, I feel like it goes south. It's like the metaphor I'm constantly using. You've probably all heard it 1,000 times. Blah blah. It's like you got a hose and you're watering your lawn with a hose, and there's a kink in it all of a sudden, and you're like, "Fuck!" and you squeeze it. You're squeezing the hose, and there's a kink in it. Why isn't the water flowing? Well, because you're bearing down really hard on it. This is the thing that's happening. It's coming through a hose. I'm the hose, okay, in this metaphor. The muses or the gods or the planets or the source or karma or whatever you want to, yoga, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is coming through me. And I'm just letting it happen. And that's the practice, and that's difficult to do. And that's when you get good at it. And anybody who's had that experience, you've had that experience, oh, this thing's coming to life, right? You're writing, you're like, oh, this thing's writing itself. You hear people say that early on in your career, you're like, fuck you, nothing writes itself. It all writes itself, right? That's the crazy trick, is that Bob Dylan doesn't write songs. The great Bob Dylan, the greatest artist of all time, doesn't write songs. They write themselves through him, and he'd be the first to tell you that. And so it's when you're able to take your hand off of the tube and just let it be that it comes better. People ask me how I write dialogue. I try not to. I mean, someone's got to type it, but I try not to write it. I try to just let it happen. I know it sounds so goofy.
Well, I'm wondering, is it tricky to get the levels right in terms of the horror and the comedy? Like, you don't want to play.
Not if you're in the groove, man. Not if you're in the groove.
Is that done in the writing, or is that done like in the edit? Is that something you can adjust in the editing, maybe? Or
you can adjust everything in the editing, it turns out, but it's in the script. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. Scripts are pretty good.
You did one thing that you shifted from is that you moved the flashbacks into the 90s, and then the current stuff is present day. Why did you move it into the 90s rather than before that?
Easy answer. I had it in the 50s and the 80s when I first started to write it. I was like, 50s, 80s, because that feels like a Stephen King thing. Well, it turns out it's already been a Stephen King thing a couple times, so it felt almost a little stale. It was like 50s, 80s feels like Stand By Me, and then it feels sort of like It, and then it feels like Stranger Things, which is like It again. So is Perkins gonna come in and be like, on top of Stranger Things, on top of It, on top of thing? So you just move it over. It's easy to do, you just fix it. Sure. Just find the thing and just switch it. But what's cool about that though is that a lot of the stuff remains, the vibe remains the same, like the music, right? Let the Good Times Roll was always the song from the beginning when I was writing in the 50s, and it's still the song now. Lois, the mom, comes with a certain 50s dance sensibility. We got Sam Cooke at the end, we got Little Richard in there, like all that stuff remains. A lot of the way Bill talks when he's a kid is sort of remnants of his 50s. I was gonna marry that girl. Says about the babysitter. It's very 50s things to say, but I was gonna marry that girl.
I'm pretty sure this is the bloodiest thing you've ever done, to the point where it feels like so much blood comes out. Sometimes it's more than the human body actually holds. Just tell me about playing with that.
Yeah, we had, in pre-production, and pre-production is a glorious time, right? Because like you don't know anything and you're figuring it all out, and everyone's sort of talking, you're meeting endlessly with all the departments. We would have death meetings at least twice a week, just to be like, okay, let's wrap our heads around these deaths. And I was like, oh, the swimmer, so she's gonna dive into the pool and she's gonna explode. Someone can they ask Siri how much blood is in a body? Oh, it's, 4 gallons, or I'm making that up. It was like, really, that's it? I guess we should do, what, 12, 15, something like that? And the special effects guys are like, we have that on the truck. And that's the glory of making a movie, and that's the glory of making a movie with a smile on your face, because everybody wants to do it, right? The special effects guys are like, we got all that shit on the truck. So when we're doing the swimmer, we lock the camera off and we do plates, right? So we do 1 plate of her diving, then she's freezing, it's 10 degrees, we shot in Vancouver, she goes and she gets warm, we've got that element. Then we sit there with the camera, we lock it off, we get other plates, which ultimately the VFX on that shot is just to merge the plates. And so she dives in, we send her home. Then what happens is we build a bridge across the pool, and out goes my special effects guy in a full Green Man suit. Full It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia Green Man suit. And he's just out in the middle of this bridge on his knees, tossing body parts. Well, what if you toss the leg more like a golf club?
I hesitate to even compare this to another film, but I mean, some of the more elaborate kills are Final Destination-y, Rube Goldberg machine sort of thing. Were those the toughest to shoot? Like just from a technical standpoint, were those the biggest pain in the ass?
They're the toughest to plan, and then everything's tough to shoot because everybody knows we don't have enough time to make a movie. There's no time. All the days are too short, there's too much to do. Oh, it's 8 pages today. Oh, it's a nightmare. So the time is always a suck. But we plan it really well so that my guy with the Green Man suit gets out there.
On like a sort of, just if I took a second to seriously analyze this, the monkey metaphor is always sort of attached to addiction. And there is a certain bit of people being addicted to having control of, or thinking they have control of this monkey. How much of the film were you thinking in terms of that?
I wasn't thinking about addiction. What I was thinking about is I was thinking about this notion. So as I'm developing it, and you get the material and you start to sit with it, and you try to get to like, what is this thing? What is this thing that I'm going to be giving to you guys? Like, I better know in a very pithy way what I mean by this. So you start looking at it, you're like, well, it doesn't. Here's what it doesn't do. It's not Megan. It doesn't run after you. Doesn't dance. Doesn't do a thing. It's not Chucky. It doesn't leer. It doesn't dance. It doesn't do a thing. Does Chucky dance? I assume he dances. It doesn't even really turn its head in a creepy way. It doesn't do anything except it's what it's made to do. So it's just there. So I got into this tripping with myself. I was like, oh, it's God. The monkey, people die around the monkey in these insane ways, but it's just inert. It's like a totem or an idol or a god or a statue. It's like a statue of Ganesh, as much as it's anything, right? Or like an old sort of Egyptian deity, right? Like, it doesn't do shit. People die. Oh, newsflash, everybody dies, right? Like that. And when I connected to that, man, it was just like downhill skiing at that point.
To me, it was like, I mean, based on that ending, it's a harbinger of the apocalypse. Like, that's kind of what it.
Did anybody get the Pale Rider? Did anybody care?
Last thing I want to ask you, well, just let me say real quick, I think Matt mentioned this at the beginning. We are opening this film on the 21st of February in 35 millimeter. This is what you saw tonight, not 35, apologies, we don't have that yet. But please, if you liked it, let everybody know, tell them all. It's going to open everywhere, but tell people to come see it here in 35. It's better. And I should also mention, like, you have another film coming out this year in October
I
with
know.
Tatiana Maslany again.
It's true.
Can you say anything about Keeper? Is that what it's
Keeper,
called?
yeah. What I can say is this. Here's the crazy part about it. So we made Long Legs, right? We did Long Legs, and everyone was like, that felt really good. And I'd been in Vancouver, and I'd met all these new people and this great crew, and everybody's 25 years old. Really fucking people. Like my prop master on Long Legs, who like built all this stuff, 25. My costumer, 26 years old, something like that. So we had this great group of people. I fell in love with the people, I fell in love with the town, fell in love with the producers. We've made a team. We were all ready to go in the Monkey. We had the Monkey, the script was all ready to go. We had the financing, everybody's excited. Let's go make the movie with all the same people. We'll just step off of one boat onto the next boat, and no one's ever done that. No one ever does that. Tremendous. Strike. Writers Guild strike. And it was all fine. We had it all set up, and it was all aligned, and we were gonna get waivers and all this stuff. And Stephen King was like, I won't do it. And we were like, what do you mean we won't do it? It's all fine. He was like, no, I won't do it. I won't take any money while everybody else is dying. And I was like, fuck, you're right. But it was a real blow to all of us, me specifically. I'll just take it personally. Like, it was like, fuck. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna die. I need money. I need to stay in Canada. I want to do the thing. I want to do. I want to keep going. I want to keep going. I got to keep going. So I kind of cried for 30 minutes because I'm a grown up. Don't forget to cry, folks.
Emotions.
Yeah, don't forget to cry. So I did a 30-minute cry. Kind of got up off the ground. Called my producer, Chris Ferguson, who's my partner now, and I called him and I said, we got to make a movie. He said, what do you mean? I said, we got to make a movie. He said, what do you mean? I said, we got to make a movie. He said, there's strikes on. Everybody's on strike. There's a writer's strike. You can't do anything. I said, well, tough shit. We're making a movie. So for a minute there was like, well, is it going to be a found footage movie? Because we probably found some footage and do some Skinamarink shit or something like that. But it was like, no. Actually, what we can do is we can find a non-Writers Guild writer, Canadian, to write a script, and we could make up a thing. And I can talk to him as a director, because the Directors Guild is not on strike, and I can have conversations with him as if I'm a director and he can write the script. Cool. And then I guess we'll get some actors. We'll probably get shitty actors. Oh, we can get Tatiana fucking Maslany because she'll work as a Canadian, not as a guild. She can wave her thing and she can do the thing. I can get Ross F. Sutherland, who's Donald Sutherland's son. I can get the two of them to be in a two-hander. I can find a house in North Vancouver. Oh my God, we're making a movie. And truly, from the moment I got up after sniffling my tears away and calling my friend Chris to finishing that movie, shooting that movie, it was like 16 weeks, which anybody knows here is fucking bananas. And we finished that on a Friday. We had a wrap party on a Saturday, and on Monday we were in the offices of the Monkey because the strikes had broken during the shoot. And Neon bought it. It comes out in October. It's really pretty cool. If an old man can do it, so can you.
Osgood, thank you so much for coming to Chicago
My
and
pleasure.
showing us your movie. Thanks for sticking around, everybody.